superfluous nonsense.
He's basically irresistible to people for the same reason he can pretty much only work at a carnival. He has nothing to prove or disprove about himself or to himself. He has no shame.
Here's your host, Ryan Kaufman.
Hello there. Welcome in Monday edition of the show, NFL Preseason Week 1. The topic du jour. Appreciate you listening on air, online at extrasports1300.com or the Extra Sports 1300 app, sponsored by Diversus Health, Mental Health, and Wellbeing for All. And don't forget, you can always watch the show on any one of your favorite social media platforms at XTRA Sports 1300. I told you, NFL preseason week 1 is the topic du jour, and there are multiple subtopics which constitute today's edition of What's Driving the Show. All right, we start with Sean Payton not happy with anyone associated with the Denver Broncos. So, yeah, not a great first showing for the Super Bowl caliber Denver Broncos. Not the showing that Sean Payton wanted his team to have. And look, you had to wonder how this team would respond. I can't speak to how good the accommodations in the Bay Area were, or whether their flight was on time. I can't speak to the 14 things that Sean Payton is talking about, but I can speak to what was on the field. And what was on the field was a team that pretty much struggled against the backups of another team. And the one thing that you usually bank on is your ones against their twos in preseason with vanilla defenses and no one tipping anyone's hand. It should have been easy for the Broncos defense and their offense to execute. Get a drive, maybe two, get out of there, move on. That was not the case. And you wonder if this is a team that needed a lesson taught to them, and better for it to happen preseason week 1 than week 1 of the regular season. But in order for you to actually become that team that Sean Payton talked about, capable of winning a Super Bowl, with so many national talking heads think you are, which is a Super Bowl caliber team, like, you actually have to do it. Like, you have to go out there and win games. And for the Broncos to be Super Bowl caliber, they have to be better than they were last year. So perhaps Saturday, the best case scenario, it was a lesson that the Broncos needed to learn. They are not sneaking up on anybody. They are going to get everyone's best shot, and they have to have more respect for the opponent and not think that they've arrived because a few people on ESPN want to use them as their hot take for the week. So I could set the scene for preseason game number 2 against the Cardinals. It should be much better than what you saw on Saturday. And one person in particular, because of the position he plays, needs to be put above all others. That was Broncos quarterback Bo Nix, the subject of story number 2. Nothing to write home about. 6 of 11, 31 yards. Felt like Sean Payton had to keep him in order to be able to end his night on a high note. Very surprised to see the Broncos' first-team offense back out there for the third series, which it shouldn't have to be that way. And you have to put it on Bo Nix first and foremost. But that quote there is the essence of the Bo Nix debate. My question about Bo Nix and other people's questions about Bo Nix has to do with when he can't plan for something, when he can't control something. That's what separates the good quarterbacks from the great ones. That's why we have 3 or 4 quarterbacks that are considered way better than everyone else. Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, Burrow. They don't need everything prepped for them. They don't need everything controlled. If a play breaks down or they get some pressure or they get a look they weren't expecting, they can adjust. That's the question with Bo Nix, if he's capable of doing that. I know he could take orders from Sean Payton as well as any quarterback in the league. And I know he's a good study of the game plan, of the script. What we don't know is when, and even think about when he's at Oregon in that type of offense. Like, what we don't know is when Sean Payton and Bo Nix can't control everything. Is Bo Nix capable of making plays? Not with his arm, not yet. And you saw it on Saturday. Very inaccurate under pressure, which he was last year. His completion percentage dropped 15% from when he had a clean pocket versus a dirty pocket. And that was the largest gap between those two numbers of any quarterback in the league. What was one thing that he constantly did under duress last year? Just get it to somebody. Which there's a time and a place for that, but I'll throw the pass to Cortland Sutton now and hold that up as the example here. On first and second down, okay, you get under pressure, just get rid of it to somebody, get a positive play, come back. On third down, you can't have a 2-yard completion when you need 5 yards for a first down. He does check it down a lot, even on downs where he can afford to. And when he's under pressure, just as much bad happens as good happens. And you saw him not know where the line of scrimmage was, so he could throw to it to avoid a safety and an intentional grounding call. And it wasn't that Bo Nix was worse than he was last year. He was similar to what he was last year. But here's the problem. That's not going to cut it. What he was in his rookie year is not going to cut it. He's got to be better. He's got to improve because defenses now know his tendencies. And one of the big things that's out on Bo Nix right now is if you can pressure him and not let him run, you're going to win. You're going to win that down. He cannot beat teams from a dirty pocket right now. And that's the biggest place that he has to grow in order to become the quarterback Sean Payton thinks he'll be. You can't control everything all the time. You can't script out and plan out everything all the time. And there was a lot, to Bo Nix's point, that they didn't plan for, that they couldn't script out, and he struggled. What do you think's going to happen when opponents' first team defenses are doing that to him? Now we go to story number 3, which was somebody who did the job that they were tasked with doing in their preseason opener. The NFL on the audio there, Shedeur Sanders surprising many with his performance, couple of touchdowns, 130-something yards as the Browns beat the Panthers in their preseason opener. But he really shouldn't have surprised anybody. And there's this phenomenon, and you've already gotten a sense of it at the time Shedeur was in Boulder. Right? Because what was the deal with the last 2 teams at CU? Especially when it comes to their head coach. Right? Deion Sanders is either the heaven's gift to football or he is in way over his head, and there is no in between. But if you look at the first 2 years under Deion Sanders, it was very much between the two. What did he win? Nothing. But was he objectively terrible? Of course not. He looked like he belonged as a major Division I college coach. It's the same thing with Shedeur. We're going to have the 2 opposite ends of the spectrum at all times. Either Shedeur is the savior of the Cleveland Browns or he doesn't even deserve to be on an NFL field. And I am telling you, the truth is in the middle. The number one thing you want to see from any rookie in the preseason opener, just look like you belong. I had zero doubt that Shedeur Sanders would look like he belonged because he is not a 5th-round pick. I don't want to bring back up all this and get into a big conversation about what happened at the NFL draft, but it had nothing to do with how good of a quarterback Shedeur is. He is not a 5th-round talent. So what I saw, knowing that about Shedeur, having seen him play at CU, it doesn't shock me that he was good. But did it look like Shedeur Sanders was, well above everyone else? No. He had his struggles. He did the thing where he ran 20 yards straight backwards to try and avoid a sack. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't even elite. But he looked like he belonged. He had a good day. And the next step of this, even though we're going to still get these nonsensical arguments that Shedeur either isn't any good or everyone is out to get him and he's actually the greatest quarterback ever to live. The next step here is now the Browns need to cut it out with the foolishness. To use a phrase from Shedeur's dad. Okay, you did the thing where you were trying to make him prove it, and you tried to strip away some of his celebrity status, and you brought in all these quarterbacks, and you muddied the waters, and you didn't want Shedeur to be, you wanted him to earn what he got. Well, he has earned the Browns dropping all of this other stuff, and they just need to now treat him like the Giants are treating Jackson Dart, like the Titans are treating Cam Ward. Well, maybe not that one because Cam Ward will start week 1. Like Jackson Dart is being treated by the Giants. Like so many rookie quarterbacks are treated across the league. Yeah, he's not our guy week 1. But they have Joe Flacco. That's fine. And I'm not sitting here saying Shedeur Sanders gives the Browns a better chance to win week 1 against the Bengals than Joe Flacco does. But you need to treat him like the quarterback he is. That he is the only quarterback among the 6 that you have any shot at a future with. Joe Flacco's too old. You're going to cut Deshaun Watson the minute you can. Tyler Huntley was brought in for reasons I don't quite understand. Maybe to get some intel out of him on the Baltimore Ravens. And Dylan Gabriel is not as good as Shedeur Sanders. And Kenny Pickett you just brought in because you needed another guy. And you're going to probably move forward trying to showcase him like Sean Payton did Zach Wilson last year. And he's going to be on a different team at some point. Like, let's clear away all of this clutter and just get to what this Browns quarterbacking situation is. It's Joe Flacco's job week 1. The minute that goes off the rails and the Browns are like, yeah, we're done here, it's Shedeur's job. And the more games you can give them, the better, but just give them some games. Have a sample size, because if the Browns are heading where we all think they're heading, they're going to have a choice. And would they rather have a choice between Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier, Arch Manning, and theoretical Shedeur Sanders, or those 3 guys with 4, 6, 8 games of Shedeur Sanders in the National Football League? So that's what Shedeur earned with that. He proved he belongs. For some people, he far outpaced expectation. Kevin Stefanski was pleased. So just do the thing that other organizations do. Give them the first team reps. Start him in the next preseason game if Joe Flacco's not going to play. You don't have to play him 3 quarters. But start him, have him run with your best players, get him ready, because he is the only chance you got in that quarterback room right now of having a future. And he showed that on Friday night. 719-24-7, 1313, text line broken like a jerk. So you can call in your thoughts, 719-24-7. 1313. Coming up next, speaking of things that nobody should be shocked about, the thought that Bo Nix may actually not be the Broncos quarterback forever. That's next here on Extra Sports 1300.
for only a tap away. Download the free Extra Sports 1300 app. Sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all.
At this point, I know it's hard to fathom that anyone not named Bo Nix will ever be the Broncos quarterback. But it's a realistic possibility, and not just because at some point Bo Nix will age out of the position, but also it's entirely possible because he may not be worth what the going rate for a franchise quarterback is. ESPN put out a bold prediction. Nix will lose his starting job during the 2027 season, which will be his last as a Bronco. It is shocking, but it's the crux of what I have been talking about since Bo Nix was drafted. There was every reason to think that he would be good out of the gate, some level of good. I even think that in some ways he exceeded my expectation. But because of the number of games that Bo Nix had under his belt, he was more ready to take over as a rookie quarterback than maybe any rookie quarterback ever. So last season was entirely possible. But the question moving forward, and the bigger question surrounding him when the Broncos drafted him, does he have a high ceiling, or is this just a high floor? And it's what I've been saying, and what you saw on Saturday. Can he start to figure out how to make more plays when the pocket is crumbling around him? Especially if Sean Payton doesn't want him to run. That's another aspect of Saturday. Like, Bo Nix might have been able to get out of some of that pressure had he run, but it's very clear that Sean Payton, even though he's been impressed with Bo Nix's speed, he doesn't really want him to run. But even if he has the ability to run, and look at Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson has more ability to run than any quarterback that has ever played in the NFL. But he was never elite. He was never one of this ruling class of quarterbacks in the league until he started to win from the pocket. So even though I think there's a happy medium between how much Sean Payton wants Bo Nix to run and how much he should run, ultimately what will tell the tale is his ability to win from the pocket. It has always been that way. It's that way for Lamar and for Mahomes and for Josh Allen, and it will be for Bo Nix. So maybe a few of those plays you look at Saturday and go, well, Bo Nix would run out of that. Maybe. But he's not going to be able to run for forever. Sean Payton's not going to like it for him to run. He's going to have to start completing passes when the pocket is collapsing around him. And if Bo Nix can't do that, then he might not be able to continue. The Broncos may need to look elsewhere for a quarterback with a little bit higher ceiling. Now, this isn't a thing. The piece says 2027, so we got a while. We're not there yet. We can't proclaim anything about him. We can observe things. But we don't know what Bo Nix is truly going to be. We'll know better next year. I know it's all about this year and the lofty expectations for the Broncos. Sorry. Bo Nix is going to be what he is going to be next year. And then we'll decide whether we need to start firing up the mock drafts and start looking at the possibility that the Broncos will be looking elsewhere. And because of what Sean Payton has said, it will be very interesting next year. Because he will either have needed to reach top 4 or 5 quarterback in the league status, or he may have reached Broncos need to start looking elsewhere. And how can you give Bo Nix a massive contract extension? Now, it is a bold prediction. It was labeled that way, to be fair to its author. This is not a medium prediction. This is not, I 1000% believe this with every fiber of my being. But hey, if you're going to ask me to be a little bit outside the box, how about this? And I don't think it's crazy to say that, because the question about Bo Nix is the ceiling. Does he have, and it's the entire thing about this season, can Bo Nix go toe-to-toe, play for play, throw for throw with Lamar, Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, etc.? He really couldn't last year. I would say he was definitely outplayed by Justin Herbert twice, which is fine because he's a rookie. Not every rookie could be Jaden Daniels. But it mapped out easily the number one thing to watch this year. Can Bo Nix take that next step? But ultimately, the bigger question is, will he take the step, the big step, to be a legitimate, true franchise quarterback and somebody worth the Denver Broncos paying? Because we can talk now about, pay Zach Allen, pay Nick Bonito, pay Cortland Sutton, pay everybody. It's all fun now. But reality sets in. And it's in the reality that maybe the 49ers are starting to get into a little bit here. Now, I don't fault them for paying Brock Purdy, and it may be the same way with Bo Nix. Like, hey, man, he's done X, Y, and Z for you. It's time for him to be paid. You pay him. Kind of like the Nick Bonito thing. I understand that there's some reservations, perhaps. There's not a huge sample size of production from Nick Bonito, but he's plays a premium position. His contract is up. You got to pay him. Maybe that'll be the same way for Bo Nix. But we've already started to see it a little bit with the 49ers, right? No more Deebo Samuel. Still like the Niners this year, but how many years into the future is Brock Purdy going to be able to lead this team? When George Kittle ages out and when Christian McCaffrey calls it a career, is he the type of quarterback that can elevate everyone around him? We're fixing to find out with Brock Purdy. But Bo Nix will have to get to that point as well. And the Broncos will have to say, well, with the way it manifests itself with the Broncos, because Sean Payton doesn't seem willing to spend a ton of money on the offensive side, it will be, well, the defense is now not going to be elite anymore. It's not going to be the top defense or the top 5 defense. It's going to be a top 10 or 12 defense. Still good. Surtain's going to play for a long time. Benito's going to play for a long time. They just drafted Jahdae Barron. I don't see that the Broncos defense anytime soon is going to be terrible. But he won't have arguably the best NFL defense supporting him. And what does that look like? Can the Broncos win? I think it's a legitimate question, and I don't think it's a crazy thought to have. Now it seems like it because he's coming off of a very good rookie year and expectations are super high. Maybe it's a little bit easier based on what you saw Saturday to go, okay, Bo Nix does have a little ways to go. I don't think it's crazy. I think it's bold. It's bold to say that he will be supplanted as the starter. My thought on Bo Nix, my vision, if you will, projecting out many years, is that he will be one of those quarterbacks where we're going, yeah, he's good, but is he worth that? Cam Newton's thing, is he a truck or is he a trailer? Is he a force multiplier? All of these buzzwords and phrases that have been thrown out about quarterbacks and describing the quarterbacks who are responsible for wins and those who kind of help along the greater good. I think we're going to get there with Bo Nix. There will come a time, not this year, but starting next year, we'll be on that conversation watch. Okay, is he really that guy? 719-247-1313 if you want to call in your thoughts on what you saw in the preseason game. We're going to bring you a word from the fine folks at Low T Center. If you're feeling tired all the time, maybe you don't have energy, maybe you can't focus, maybe you've kind of been stuck on the couch. And not because it's not football season yet, really. So if it were football season, you're stuck on the couch, it makes sense. During the summer, why are you stuck on the couch? That's not living. Low testosterone affects everything, your job, your relationships, even how your kids see you, but it doesn't have to be this way. Picture yourself energized, focused, back in control. That's what testosterone therapy at Low T Center can do. And right now, there's really no risk with Low T Center. The test is free. Go and find out. And then if you do have low levels, then know that you're in the right place and you have a variety of treatment options, including treatments that's sent to your door. Could be one of the last times you go into a clinic at all for this. But really, what are you waiting for? Take the first step to getting your life back. Visit fixmylowt.com. Book that free test. That's fixmylowt.com. Drive Time Sports. Last segment, the day. Broncos this week will be playing the Arizona Cardinals in preseason game number 2. And no matter where you fall when it comes to evaluating the Denver Broncos performance on Saturday, certainly there's a little bit more intrigue going into preseason game number 2. Certainly is that. Because Sean Payton was not pleased. Broncos back at it tomorrow, so get some of Sean Payton's remaining thoughts. I would like to know my biggest thing here is I got to know what the 14 things were that had nothing to do with the game that Sean Payton was pissed about. Like, that's what I want to know. Like, what was it? The pregame meal, the hotel accommodations? Or did something go wrong on the flight? Like, what are 14? And it's super specific. Like, that is a specific number. And I know that somewhere Sean Payton has a notepad with 14 items listed. Because that's just how Sean Payton rolls. What are they? And what can be done to make them better? That's really the big thing. I mean, if the Broncos have 14 things wrong going wrong with every road trip, I mean, how is that going to help them get to the Super Bowl? So certainly this week will be more interesting. Talked about Shador, but caught Travis Hunter's debut. Not a ton to highlight. Now, could you make the argument that Pittsburgh didn't want to throw it at Travis Hunter? Maybe. I don't know. The way that Mason Rudolph was dealing in that game, I don't think he would have been afraid to throw it at Champ Bailey. But not a lot there for Travis Hunter. And here's the thing. This is not about, because he didn't make a bunch of big plays, that he can't play both sides of the football. But there has to be a patience level. This is new to him. The weekly meetings and his schedule and the concepts and all this kind of stuff. Not just is it the next level, but it's a completely different. It's not like Liam Cohen is running everything that Dion did. Bottom line, did Travis Hunter look like he belonged? Yeah, and look, he didn't get torched. And Caleb Johnson ran over him once or got around him. Now, tackling is not what I think of when I think of Travis Hunter. I'm thinking about catching the football, running, coverage, going and taking on a running back one-on-one is not necessarily right. But there's going to have to be patience. Whether this thing, and we all want to know, is it actually going to work? Can he actually do it? Some people say he can. Some people say he can't. I don't want to limit the guy. But we all want to find out whether we believe he can do both or not. We want to find out. So let's have a little bit of patience here and understand that, we give extend a courtesy to many rookies, right? We don't set the bar exceptionally high for rookies in preseason. We like them to flash every once in a while, but just overall look like you belong, and we'll save the big expectations for later. I think with Travis Hunter, there needs to be, even more. Like, did I expect him to show a little bit more than he did against Pittsburgh? I think so. Kind of like Jahdae Barron. Like, Jahdae Barron had a couple of stops where you go, oh, there's Jahdae Barron. It was hard to notice Travis Hunter other than the fact that the broadcast would point out everywhere he was on the field. But if you just turned off the sound and watch the all 22, I don't know if Travis Hunter would stick out. But the one thing that we can give him is, you know what? It's going to take some time for him to get his bearings on both sides of the football. This is not saying he can't do both, because rookies have a difficult time adjusting to the NFL schedule already. All of them are going to play more games in their rookie year than they have played in any season of football in their life. The demands are going to be different. I think actually with Travis Hunter in the preseason, I think maybe you even lower the bar a little bit. Not so Travis Hunter clears it, but just because you understand what a huge task he is undertaking. And yeah, preseason game number 1, it's probably a lot. See how he progresses through the preseason, and then the regular season will start to be, all right, can he really do this? There's a lot on his plate right now. And there is for every rookie, but him, it's double. So, but I would certainly not say that Travis Hunter's debut was more successful than Shadour's, even than LeJontay Wester. His punt return. And I mentioned this earlier. How about Travion Henderson? One of those running backs that we were talking about a lot, right? Broncos, should they draft Travion Henderson? They don't. Travion Henderson runs a kickback. Now, they wouldn't have needed him to do that in Denver. But Travion Henderson had a moment, and the Patriots, what a moment they had. You know, the Patriots are not that different than the Denver Broncos. I think it's just a different level at which they are being talked about. Broncos are talked about as the next team to take a step and challenge for a Super Bowl. The Patriots are basically being looked at as this year's Denver Broncos. Right? Not a good team. Could surprise some people. Could be a factor for the playoffs. Like, that's how the Patriots are being discussed. And they go up and put, nearly 50 on Atlanta? So the Broncos didn't do a great job of vindicating those who have been talking them up over the last few weeks. The Patriots did. And I think they're a team that could challenge for a wild card spot, because Vrabel, I believe in Vrabel, but also the potential of the bottom falling out of Miami with everything going on. Like McDaniel, Tua, Tyreek Hill now telling state secrets and giving his thoughts on the coaching and what they're running at the goal line. With the potential that the bottom could drop out of the Dolphins, and the possibility, too, that the Jets just aren't that good of a football team. I mean, Patriots could – that's where you got to look. Sean Payne always talks about your division is where it starts. Patriots might be able to have some success within their division, which will help them as they go up against, I'm looking like a Pittsburgh, a Denver. I kind of look at those teams Maybe now the Chargers coming back a little bit with the injury to Rashawn Slater. But, like, not the top tier of wild card contenders. Like Cincinnati would be in my mind. And LA was. Houston will call the AFC South winner a wild card. Because in many ways, they're looked at as a second-class citizen to Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City. But, like, you look at the Patriots, if they can have success against Miami and the Jets, that will help them out going against, if it comes down to themselves or the Broncos for the 7th spot, or them and the Steelers. Patriots are going to be interesting. We do tend to be a year early on these things, and I wouldn't be shocked if we're all a year early on New England, and the demise of the Dolphins isn't quite there yet, and Miami holds down a distant second behind Buffalo, but could be New England there. Week 1 of the NFL preseason in the books. Here comes week 2 right now. Appreciate you tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your evening here on Extra Sports 1300.